Oh, wonderful, oh, wonderful. I'm host Eric, host Talking Strange People. Here tonight to talk about dysfunction, personality, and experience. Why those three things, Eric? Why dysfunction, personality, and experience? Well, I'll tell you, friend. It's for a very important reason. Specifically, I don't know, it's what I thought of as the title. What I felt like talking about, I guess. You know, Rachel was feeling kind of, I guess, a little fussy tonight or something. And she had mentioned that part of the reason for this was she was feeling some jealousy, and also that she was remembering some previous bad experiences and stuff, and I guess trying to process stuff that she never really processed before. So that's fine. That's all well and good. Try to this differently. Well, for fuck's sake. That's good enough. That's good enough, I say. I've checked all the documentation I can find, and I've determined you're a very special kind of lady. Oh, yes, you are. Well, you're a very, 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 very special lady. Yes, you're a very, 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 very special lady. Yes, you are. So, obviously that makes sense. If nothing else does, that makes some sense. But is it enough to justify invading another country? No, probably not. I guess it depends on what you think qualifies as an adequate justification for that. Of course, you could be a international realist and say any sort of interest-based calculus is sufficient to justify that, I suppose. You might be that person, who knows? So, we did a lot of cleaning today, a lot of rearranging today, did a lot of work today, got a lot of stuff done. And now I'm wearing this coat with no shirt on underneath it for sex appeal purposes. If you enjoy sex appeal, you're going to love me. I'm chock full of sex appeal. Like that, see? That's sexy. It's always easy to talk a lot of shit about me. You can say I'm dumb, say I'm clumsy, bad with my SI. I'm careless with people's feelings sometimes, but one thing you cannot deny is that I got mad sex appeal. Doesn't that make you just want to put something right in my mouth? It could be food, could be a breast, could be some other body part. A BBC, for example. It's a British broadcasting company, naturally. Dirty-minded people. So it's just me and this one person here. Joe. Joe's here. Hi, Joe. How's it going? What you up to? Really? We're seeing Marcy again, huh? Yeah, it didn't work out very well last time, Joe. Me and Marcy ended up getting into quite a fight, and police were called, and you were arrested for domestic violence. So, it's Octavio Silva. I thought it was Joe, my domestic violence friend. My imaginary domestic violence friend. If you're not reaping the benefits of having an imaginary domestic violence friend, why not? Why aren't you taking advantage of that right now? You should be. That's a saucy water, I tell you. It's Perrier and juice brand drink. Pineapple and mango in this instance. Now, Joe's here. He's the other person who's here. He's my domestic violence friend, who teaches us all valuable lessons about domestic violence. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I say, don't be like Joe. He's always beating on his hoe. Yo, yo. And everybody understands then. And from that point forward, things begin to make a little bit of sense. I haven't done a lot of sleeping the last couple of nights. Last night I got no sleep. And before I got very haphazard sleep. Even the night before there was no Adderall in the mix. But that's why I got haphazard sleep. I need to run myself ragged, too little sleep for days and days. Then I'll sleep really well for a while. Rachel's in there trying to go to bed right now. She may or may not fall asleep. We have all these discussions, these totally unnecessary discussions about whether or not we should sleep together. You know, like, is it okay? Does it bother you if I get up? Yes, I will answer your questions. I will explain NI to you. NI is the process of, to begin understanding NI, you got to understand that it's first and foremost a knowledge function that's not really about knowledge. It's about intuition. So when Rachel and I were down in Palm Desert, and we saw some ducks flying overhead, 2 ducks, one ahead and one a little bit behind, she said, "Duck hunt." It looked like the scene on the Duck Hunt video game. Now, you might think, well, that's an SI thing, but it's not. She didn't say something like, "That reminds me of the time that my dad and I went to Lake Ballamore with him, and we found, yeah." That's an SI thing. Duck Hunt is NI. It's saying, here's a universal, intuitively resonant universal to link to this particular moment. So the takeaway of that is that NI is often as simple as the obvious answer. If, for example, we were talking about my idea for a Broadway play called Home More, which is a Broadway play about an NFP lady who lives her dream and teaches homeless people how to do interpretive dance and forms a dance troupe. And they get invited to the presidential inauguration. They almost miss it, but at the last minute they're included through some, hijinks or whatever. And then, there's that scene. There's that scene where the politician is up there talking about how inspiring these homeless people are. And then Jackie, one of the sassy homeless people, grabs the mic. "Well, we ain't homeless. Homeless people, we ain't homeless. We home more. Break it down." And then they start dancing, Now that's an NI kind of joke realization that it's just, that's how the formula of those sort of movies work, where I'm linking into formulas that were expressed in like Sister Act, for example, is a good example, is the NI equivalent to this thing. When people want to have an elevator pitch for a movie idea, for example, they want to hear something like, it's Sister Act, but with homeless people and dancing. That's NI. You might link it to other similar sort of things, like Fame has dancing in it or whatever. But so, for example, if I see an image of real nature that reminds me of a World War Warcraft location, just having generally similar architecture, foliage, coloration, so that's That's probably SI. So it's like, the thing is, um, because you're linking to something specific that you're familiar with. Uh, if, for example, you saw an image of nature, let's say, um, well, let's say you were to, let's say you were walking in a rose garden, and um, somebody said, well, this isn't a rose. I don't know what kind of flower this is, but it smells beautiful. Well, an NI response might be, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. It's a Shakespeare quote, but it links to both the concept of the rose and the smell, and it's universal, more or less. People are familiar with the quote. It's an axiom or an aphorism. It's not, you may or may not have learned it in Shakespeare class, but you don't know the expression because of Shakespeare. You know it because it's an idiom. And so, another good example of a distinction between NI and SI is when I was driving Ruben. I was driving to go get Ruben from the courthouse downtown one day in the summer when I was living with Kimberly. And I was driving down White Avenue, and I was nearing the freeway, and I forgot where I was going. I was like, where am I going? Now, I had a sticky note on my dashboard that said, yeah, court, like Cesar Chavez courtroom, whatever. It's family court he was going to. So I had the name of the place on a Post-it note on my dashboard. Instead of looking right in front of me with SE and choosing the NI reality of going, oh, that's right, I'm going there by looking at this paper, I, in the car, thought back, okay, so let's see, what was I doing when I was leaving the house? I was saying this to Kimberly, and I said this, and oh, that's right, I'm going to get Ruben. Then I noticed the sticky note on my dashboard, and I was like, oh. Well, that's prioritizing SI over NI. Prioritizing SI over NI also means not prioritizing SE very much, because SE and NI link. If I'm not noticing something right in front of my face, that's a lack of NI, not a lack of SI. Another example is the potato touch story, where I went to the restaurant and I had recalled with my SI that in a previous visit I had noted the waiters and waitresses at this Norm's, they touched your potato when they put the butter inside of it. They pushed the sides of it, the ends of it, to make it open, and then they put the butter in. And I didn't like them touching the potato. So I remembered that. And the next time I went to Norm's, I said to myself, aha, now look, I'm getting a meal again. So I need to remember to keep an eye. I'm sitting here at the counter. I'm going to watch the waiter the whole time, eagle eyes, and see how much and if they touch my potato. Well, when the meal arrived, I realized I had ordered rice pilaf, and I didn't have any potato for them to touch. That's SI pushing NI out of the way. And you can see how when you're an NE DOM, and the way you use NI, it involves ignoring, the way you use SI, it involves ignoring NI a lot of times. So, for example, I was using SI to recall what to do with my food order and ordering potatoes at this restaurant, and I ignored the NI that I wasn't going to get my potato touched because I didn't order a potato. You could get rice pilaf instead, and I had chosen rice pilaf. So, and when I finally arrived, I was like, wait a second, how did I miss them touching my potato? Oh, that's right, I didn't get a potato. That was dumb, Eric. I spent all that time keeping eagle eye out for these waiters to touch my potato, and I didn't even get one. So that's an example of SI trumping NI. Another way to understand NI is simply that it's understanding a holistic truth, so to speak, often about things that can't be fully deconstructed. So if you've got an NITE way to do something that's an effective and efficient way of doing things and will get the desired outcome. It may not be possible to explain why that's the best way to do it. After all, you'd have to lay out all the possible ways to do something in order to establish that's the best way. In fact, problem solving doesn't work like that. Problem solving is a interactive endeavor. TE is an interaction function. So a TE user is going to expect a problem to be an ongoing series of updates to the plan and adjusting to new factors that come into play. Whereas a TI user like me is going to think, well, I can anticipate all the various argumentational or discursive realities here in advance, and I can make this fully defensible in advance by anticipating everything and laying out the words properly. So that's kind of the difference between an action deliberator like me, who made that document and 3 videos this morning, or 1 video, but I cut it into 3 sections on this subject. And I'm going to get you that document to share the link with you so you can see what I'm talking about. The thing about cognitive functions in general, if you want to understand NI, you can't really understand it at all unless you first get that it's a kind of, all cognitive functions are a kind of action or a kind of being that occurs on one or more of 4 possible fields. And the vectors or kinds of being or kinds of action, so to speak, are action, knowledge, judgment, interface. So let me share this thing. On this document here, you will see there's a pretty good definition of NI. NI distills objects, archetypes on the internal metaphysical field and retrieves and considers or speaks aloud objects using a relevancy engine. And I will run this engine upon universal social systems with FE, and I will run this engine upon particularist organizational physical systems with TE. NI is also responsible for timing in real-time situations in space. So that's on this rockument here. It's a rockument because it's a hard rock document. Yeah, it's mostly TI nonsense. You're right. But it's good TI nonsense. High quality TI nonsense. I didn't just give you the shitty TI nonsense. Is it NI to be able to predict how the story in a movie, TV show will develop based on tropes or subtle foreshadowing? Yeah, that's NI. A lot of times I'll say what I expect the line to be in a movie. For example, the obvious line that comes after Mia is something, like you're gonna lose everything. I can't. Why not? Got nothing to lose. Like that, yeah. If you were gonna anticipate what's the next line there, that's the obvious line. If like Rachel and I will often talk about sort of archetypal kinds of movies or shows or whatever, and how a certain scene always plays out like this, and media savvy in general is an NI thing because the success or failure of a piece of media and the extent to which it resonates as either trite, which is to say universal in a way that's not interesting or doesn't meow it out at all, or in a way that lacks universality entirely, in which case it's super original, but it's very particularist and it's not going to resonate. So, like, Zandy, I would say that for every good movie, there's 20 terrible ones. So I feel you, dog. I feel you, but Rachel and I are pretty careful about choosing which movies we see, and the ratio is even worse with music. For every good track you hear, there's a million shitty ones. So I'm putting on a shirt, taking off that jacket. Oh, Kitty. We took off Kitty's bandage today. So she's free-footing it. It's like free balling, but with your foot. It looks kind of gross still, but she's okay now. She doesn't need to have that bandage on anymore. It's bugging her. You see her ugly foot there, shaved, and still has a wound on it. But yeah, she's healing. She's definitely healing. And we just took it off today. She's had it on there for a solid 2 weeks. And she barely was favoring the foot. She was happy to get it off for sure. She was like, okay, it's enough of this bandage now, please. But yeah, like, if you think about it, at least with films, because there's such an undertaking to make them, there's less, a smaller pile of worthless crap than, say, with music out there. It's like there's a massive pile of worthless crap music-wise in the world. Almost everything you hear is crap. So, also, I make the leap pretty easily in movies. I'm not hugely snobby or connoisseur-y about movies. I like good, fun movies, action stories, magical powers, stuff like that. Like kid kind of themes, basically. But I like clever movies too, but I don't like them too clever. Like, for example, I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Booksmart, I think it's called. And it's about these two high school chicks who are super glib. The whole thing is overwritten. It's super overwritten. All the lines are like ultra glib. And it was somewhat annoying. They're fleshing out his character suddenly and making him seem sympathetic. He's going to die soon. Yeah. Rachel and I also try to mix up the kinds of movies we see. So we've seen a couple of very old movies recently. We saw Witness for the Prosecution, which I very highly recommend. It's an old black and white movie. And that one will surprise you, Andy. You won't see it. You won't see stuff coming. It does a good job of surprising the fuck out of you. The other one we saw was Treasure Sierra Madre. And that was less good than Witness for the Prosecution, another black and white movie with Humphrey Bogart in it. Still quite good, quite engaging. It's funny you should mention that fleshing out his character suddenly. I just finished watching the part of Naruto Shippuden with Rachel that which Asuma Sensei dies. Asuma Sensei is killed by one of the Akatsuki, and like in the episodes prior to his death, they spend a lot of time filling out his character and fleshing out his character suddenly and making him seem sympathetic, spending time with him and his girlfriend for no reason. We did that on Breaking Bad constantly. I really enjoyed Breaking Bad a lot when I watched it the first time. I will say, though, it's not a show that re-watches very well. You sort of get a sense of it's kind of a gimmicky undertaking when you when you try to rewatch it, as I did after I watched it the first time. When I watched Breaking Bad, I was watching it as it was coming out week by week. I'd have to wait a week to see the next one. And it was like, I don't want to wait anymore to see the next one. I want to see the next one right now. Let's do this in there. Mm-hmm. Why would anyone rewatch anything? Skygear, the Eternal Noob, are you by any chance any TwFP user? Any TwFP users don't get the concept of rewatching things because they're always thinking, second thought. Because with extroverted intuition, the second thought, they're always trying to move towards the novel as a way of approaching everything in life. I mean, even with music, INTPs are always looking for new shit, new underground, weird shit, arty stuff, and generally not really embracing NI stuff. For example, Skygear, the Eternal Noob. One of the greatest songs in the last couple of decades, probably, that was been written and recorded is "Call Me Maybe" by Carly Rae Jepsen. INTPs are the type of people who are very unlikely to recognize that kind of genius because it's very NI and they're NI countervaluing. But, different kind of media implicitly is more or less replayable. Music is the most replayable of all media. Comedy is the least replayable of all media. You say NI is being able to draw universal observations from your collective experiences. No, I'd say it's... Well, what are collective experiences? You mean your collected experiences over time? I would say that NI is the way you know when you don't use memory. You can think about NI as proto-form. Proto-NI is shape constancy. Shape constancy is the concept that this, whether you look at it like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, even though it looks very different from each angle, it's the same object and has the same identity, despite the fact that your perspective on it changes. That's proto-NI, recognizing that my sensory experiences give me data about things that are wholes, not just component parts of things. Yes, my sensory impressions give me these buttons. I can tell these buttons are here, but they don't when I'm looking at it like this. And so am I confused? Oh, this must be a different object. No, I'm not confused. I recognize it's the back of it. Kind of identity understanding. The fact that this is a lighter is NI, but it's such machine code level NI that there's nobody who can't do that much NI at least. I talked to Lightbulb today. She had sent me a Facebook message. I went on Facebook briefly to post a picture on Facebook of these jeans so I could share that photo here because I know no other way to share the photo. When I was briefly on Facebook, and I never go on Facebook anymore, I got a message from Lightbulb saying, "Hey, you want to catch up? Autonomy?" Well, anyway, long story short, I ended up chatting with her for quite some time. Recently I did, and my NI understanding of what happened there after the conversation, after I sort of sat with it for a while and pieced everything together, is that she's being a smart INFJ and making something of a power move right now while the iron is hot. Namely, she doesn't like the existing admin in the raw room any more than I do. And she's had problem with them before. And she doesn't like people getting kicked, like Neptune getting kicked out. I don't like Neptune getting kicked out either, So anyway, I'm dealing with that right now. I'm dealing with whereby.com, and I'm gonna clear out the vermin a bit. But the point is, even though the conversation wove through a lot of different topics, including her having brain cancer and having a brain tumor and having brain surgery, her physical health, a lot of other things, at the end of the conversation, what I realized is that light bulb understood that the Becky incident with her emailing my dad had changed my attitude towards the raw room, which prior to that had been one of, it's not my problem, somebody else is dealing with it, I just pay for it, talk to the admin of it, I don't care. Well, she could tell that the Becky incident sort of changed my feelings about that, and I was ready to presumably take some sort of action instead of just washing my hands of the matter entirely. And so that's why she wanted to talk to me today, is she wanted to make something of a power move, I guess, but she just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity, and timing is everything, and NIDM understands that. She's an INFJ, and I'll share the link with you here. I made 3 videos. They're scheduled for tomorrow, the next day, and I haven't scheduled the third one yet, but it's uploaded. I just haven't filled in all the words I have to fill in yet. Being a little bit lazy about that. But there's the document. I think it's a useful document because it explains that, if you want to talk about cognitive functions, you need to understand what it is you're trying to do, right? And what it is you're trying to do is taxonomy the ways that humans pay attention as a means of explaining why people do meow and not meow, or why people say meow and not meow. I mean, NI knows what the most relevant and salient point in a given thing is. For example, if you were to ask me what the most salient point or argument in the abortion debate is, I would tell you the correct answer, namely that it's a normative frame issue. It's an inconsistency within any given normative frame. In other words, no matter which normative frame you apply, you're going to produce inconsistencies with your pro-choice, with the logic. You just will. It's not like I care about the issue at all. I'm just saying that's the NI truth of the argumentation. The reason that is the only point that matters and the determinant point is because in the status quo, women want to abort fetuses. In order to do so, they have to treat fetuses as property. But fetuses are not treated like property. If they were treated like property, then men would have equal rights over that fetus, since they are equally responsible for the creation of it. And the work product of 2 people belongs equally to those 2 people, barring any preconception contract that would limit the scope of it or whatever. So the thing is, that's the core issue. It's either property or it's a person. Pro-choice people don't want it to be a person, but they don't want to treat it like property either. And that's where their arguments break down. So somebody else might say, well, that's not the salient point. That's not relevant. But that's only because those people actually have a side that they're advocating because they're attached to it. The reason I advocate the side I advocate is because it has the strongest arguments. And therefore it is correct. And therefore to choose to advocate against it would be to choose to advocate for something that is wrong and is wrong. No, it's the TI thing about, like, TI parses out any given piece of language, but there's a million arguments about abortion. People say it's a woman's right to choose. People say it's a right to privacy. People say that life begins at birth, life begins at conception, life begins at the heartbeat. most people don't ever address the fundamentally core question of the matter, which is, okay, regardless of why you want to justify it, it needs to justify consistently. And the problem you're going to run into is always the same NI problem. There's no way out of here from there. In other words, if you want to treat it like property, you're going to run into this problem. If you want to think it's people, you're going to run into this problem. And if you don't want to define what it is, then you really ought not have any rights to it at all if it's completely undefined. In other words, if I were to, heaven forbid, somehow strike you in the stomach when you're pregnant and kill the baby or whatever, that you would have no claim to it whatsoever. After all, it's not a person and it's not your property. So that's why that makes that the core single issue that ultimately decides the whole debate. You can go on a million different TI grounds, TI nodes, and parse them all down a million different ways. Now, if you really wanted to try to defeat what I just said, you would do the next level of NI thing, which is to say, well, that's just being speciesist. In other words, there's no reason to presume that humans themselves ought to enjoy particular protection. If it's a rights issue, well, rights are predicated on the ability to consent, and unborn children certainly can't consent to anything. So, there's lots of different points you could make, but the point I'm making is the best argument, the one that works best and that matters most and that will always win, is you have to choose what this thing is. Okay, fine. We want you to get what you want, women. You want to be able to abort it. Okay, well, that means you think it's property, right? That means the men own half of it. So you have to consult them and get their approval before you destroy it. After all, it's half owned by the man. Well, we don't want that. Well, but why not? You want to treat it as property, right? No, but we don't want men to have any say in this. Oh, so it's a person. Well, then you can't kill it at all. No, it's not a person. Well, then it's your property. No, it's not my property. Well, then what is it? I don't know. Well, then you lose. That's why it's the salient point, Well, I got some insight on NI polar, talking to Countess and asking her about felony murder. So felony murder is defined as a crime in which somebody dies while you're committing a felony. Now, I tell a story. You saw that conversation. You didn't understand what you gathered from it. Okay, so the thing is, the guy, he ties up the people, he steals some stuff, he runs out of the house. He's running out of the house. The guy jumps up to get on the phone and call the cops, but he trips and falls and kills himself, or dies, Now, how do we know if the guy is guilty of felony murder? What's the only point that matters? And the answer is whether or not the death occurred while he was committing the crime. Felony murder is a specific kind of crime. You're not actually killing somebody. They die while you're doing something illegal that's dramatically illegal. Like, let's say you go run into a store with a shotgun and point it at somebody's face and they have a heart attack and die. You didn't shoot them. You didn't murder them in that sense, but you're still guilty of felony murder, which is to say you're still criminally responsible for their death because it was a dramatically unusual and terrifying occurrence of you sticking a gun in the guy's face that caused him to have a heart attack, right? So the idea of felony murder is that it's possible for somebody to have no direct causal responsibility for a person's death while still being criminally responsible for it. And the metric that is used to determine whether or not somebody's guilty of felony murder is whether or not the person died while they were committing the crime. So I would ask a bunch of questions about that scenario to try to get the person to say what matters here. And, counties gave me every answer under the sun. What matters is whether or not how much they stole from the safe. What matters is what they intended to do when they went there. What matters is whether they pulled the trigger on the person. What matters is, the answer is very simple. What matters is, did the person die? Did the guy die during the commission of the crime or not? And so in that particular example, you could say the relevant question is the robber inside the house still or out of the house when the guy dies? If he's out of the house, then it's happening after the commission of the crime. And okay, so listen, Sky Gear, the Eternal New. I know I stated the definition at the start. And so I thought that when I gave this question, I thought this question is way too easy. Surprisingly, it's not for people who are unipolar. I mean, and I repeated the definition. Remember, felony murder is when somebody dies while you're committing a big crime, felony. But they still didn't get what the salient point was. And the reason I thought about this line of questioning at all is because an ENTJ lawyer talked to me about this felony murder point, and was sort of shaking his head at people who don't have good NI, basically, and saying, I do not understand some of these lawyers come in and they ask these questions that are absolutely irrelevant, because who cares what color shirt he had on? The only relevant thing here is, and he was talking specifically about felony murder, is whether or not, and he quizzed me, like he wanted to see how I would answer it. And he asked a question similar to that. And I said, well, it's whether it's during the commission or after, obviously. But of course, I'm very familiar with legal stuff too, but whatever. If you ask an ESTJ, they like won't get the question. Even my ENTP debater is constantly ignoring NI. And what does that mean in debate? It means arguing about things that aren't going to win or lose you the round. So there are certain nodes of argumentation that you don't want to argue because they are time sucks and they are flow sucks, which means like when you debate somebody, you don't want to spend all your time debating on their side of the flow, contradicting what they're saying or answering all their arguments, and not making your own arguments at all. If you're neg, maybe fine, but if you're aff, certainly you don't want to spend all your time on the neg side of the flow. Don't let the neg take over the affirmation's position, which is to say the aff is making the advocacy for something, and the negation is saying, no, your advocacy is bad. What happens a lot in debate is the aff says, I'm making an advocacy for something. The neg says, well, here's a reason your second point is wrong. And the aff starts responding to this thing, unaware perhaps that or not taking into consideration things like, is that guy's response a counter, a mitigator, a turn, a disadd? What is it? So in other words, if it's a counter, it's just like if you go, cats are bigger than dogs. And I go, no, that's false. That's factually false. Here's a piece of data from veterinarians that say dogs are bigger than cats. Average weight of dog is bigger. Average height of dog is bigger, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's countering it directly. Just saying it's factually false. Your point should have no impact. If I mitigate it, it would be something like, if we do my plan, we'll save 40,000 lives. And I go, well, I agree that this part of his plan here will save some lives, but most of these 40,000 lives that he's talking about have already been saved. So they're not at risk anymore. So he's really only going to save about 10,000 lives. That's a mitigator. I'm still giving him impact. He's still saving 10,000 lives. I'm just saying he's not saving as many lives as he's saying saving. Now, the strongest kind of response, though, or rebuttal is a turn, which says, he says this is going to direct this many resources towards ecosystem preservation in the Pacific Northwest. And I might say, Here's the thing my opponent doesn't understand. These resources are being directed towards that area for preservation in name only. What they're actually going to do is build a bunch of streets and roads and cut down trees and turn things into parks with picnic tables and stuff. And it's much better off as it is as the wild. If you're really a conservationist, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be directing money towards generating public use facilities there because you just leave the animals alone or something. That would be a turn saying, okay, you're trying to argue whoever's most environmental should win. Well, you made the point that your thing is very environmental. I'm going to argue that your thing that you think is environmental is actually anti-environmental. And because you're right about that because I'm right about being anti-environmental and you're right about the reason it'll have the impact that I say it'll have, then as a consequence, I get those impacts on my side of the flow. In other words, if I do an impact turn, I'm saying, yes, it has that impact. It saves 10,000 lives. But in this case, saving 10,000 lives is bad because all of those 10,000 people have every communicable disease known to man, plus an insatiable appetite for spreading those diseases. So we don't want to save those 10,000 people. We're not going to kill them, but we just shouldn't go out of our way to save them. We should just let them die where they are because, yeah. So that might be a counter, a turn on an impact, saying the impact you establish is true, but it actually works in my favor, not in your favor. Or you could turn the link, so you could say, well, it's true that what's a good link turn? So, for example, how are you going to best uphold justice? Well, I'm going to best uphold justice by protecting rights. And you say, okay, well, my opponent doesn't understand that this aspect of his advocacy actually violates rights. And he's married now to his value criterion of protecting rights. So use that value criterion, protecting rights. That is the way we should uphold the value of justice. But turn that link, judge. I better protect rights than my opponent does. Therefore, I better uphold justice. That would be like a link turn, okay? Yeah, NI is salience or relevance, determinateness. Like I've also used the example of if I went out one time and I had this big piece of like mucusy okra sliding down my face, like this big, just a big ass piece of okra, and just sort of stuck there, all glistening and gooey and mushy. And then I went to this work function where I had to give a short presentation on something sort of casual, like progress on the work paddleball league or something. And I made a couple jokes and I get up there and everyone's kind of looking embarrassed for me and kind of cringing a little bit. And I kind of pick up on that. And I go home and I say, I'm driving home, I wonder what the hell, why did I fail so badly? And I get home and I finally look in the mirror and I see this big ass slimy vegetable right on my face. An NI competent person would say, that's the problem. I was worrying if my jokes were funny. I was worrying if I had spoken too quickly or too softly or too loudly or whatever. Those things may or may not have been the case. Regardless, they were not why people were uncomfortable today. The reason people were uncomfortable is I have this big ass piece of okra on my face and this massive like mucusy booger right here. So an NI polar person might go, well, it could have been this, could have been the booger, could also have been my bad breath. Doesn't smell bad to me, but sure. Could have been the shirt. Maybe they don't like this color blue. I told them it's periwinkle. I wonder if the lady at the reception desk thought I was sexually harassing her when I asked her what her name meant, because her name was Exochilt. With his Me Too movements these days, it's that's anti-polar. They don't get the fact that okay, well, maybe Octavio Silva, but my dad one time came home from the doctor Okay. No, my dad is not flirty. Okay. He's not touchy. He's not handsy. He doesn't put his hands on women or harass them in any way, shape, or form. He came home from the doctors theorizing that the nurse didn't like him because he called her Miss, and she was getting all Me Too about her or something like that. It was something that I just knew couldn't possibly be the explanation of this. My dad sees all this stuff about Me Too movement on TV, and he misconstrues the reality of it into thinking that, like, an old man like him, just for saying miss to somebody, is going to incur the wrath of some rabid feminist. I know that's not what happened. It can't possibly be. But he muses all sorts of possibilities that make no sense. Like when his cell phone got hacked, he mused that it was possible that the neighbor's landline across the street had also been hacked. Why? Because when he tried to make a call on it, it didn't connect right away one time. When Becky threatened to sue him, even though it made absolutely no sense at all, and they had no possible way that she could ever sue him, he consulted a lawyer anyway, even though I explained all this shit to him. If NI is wrong, catastrophe of narrow-mindedness might occur. Well, NI is usually not wrong, first of all, because it's not making bold claims. Like, okay, I see your problem here. That square peg isn't fitting into that round hole. You should try a round peg. That's NI. That's very straightforward. And I know obviously not everything that NI has conclusions about or knows about, intuits about, is that simple and straightforward. But and the best examples of NI are the ones where it seems right in front of your face that nobody noticed it until the NI person goes, but yeah. And you go, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Yeah. All right, that's the best kind of NI. But it is true sometimes it's wrong. Like INFJs, not Rachel so much, but light bulbs on my mic. We talked about it. I talked to her today, and she used to be like what I'm about to describe. She doesn't seem to be that way anymore since she's undergone quite a dramatic stretch of time and such. But anyway, she used to frequently try to explain my behavior on FE grounds or my positions, or she'd just sort of do the FE kind of, yeah, but you're really just motivated by yeah kind of thing. And I was always like, no. In that sense, NIFE is certainly capable of assuming its own primacy as a frame, and therefore interpreting things incorrectly in some instances, especially if there's conflict in the mix. But I've not really experienced that from Rachel. When I see Rachel doing NI gone wrong, NI run amok is seeing links where there aren't any. Talking about society as though it has a will, for example. Reification fallacies and excessive universal links to particular experiences. You have an ISTJ husband, Zandy? Did you get married? When did you get married? Were you always married? Yeah, NI is the source of conspiracy, and NIFE tends to think that you can understand the causes and thereby solutions to everything by seeing who benefits and and conceiving of some sort of motivational calculus by which shadowy people do shadowy things. In other words, NIFE rarely thinks things are random. You've been married this whole time. You're just cautious of what you share online. So you're an ENFJ and you are married to an ISTJ? That must be hard. He's got polar FE, you got dominant FE. Are you his supervisor? No. You're not his supervisor. You are his ISTJ. They're conflictors? Oh. Well, listen, Sandy, first of all, I have very little faith in intertype relations in general. I think it depends mostly on the person and leastly on the intertype. ISTJs are easy to get along with if you get a good one. ENFJs are also easy to get along with. And conflictor types may be conflictors, but that doesn't mean they are constantly at battle. Like ISFPs and ENTPs are conflictors. But I get along fine with ISFPs in general. I couldn't be in a relationship with one, but I get along with them fine. They don't annoy me in the way that sometimes ESFPs do. I don't feel particularly attached. I don't get so attached to them either. Like, there's been somebody who falls into relationships, falls in love easily and stuff, or at least, I guess, falls into relationships easy. And the one type that I could sort of not get too emotionally attached to and sort of just stay as a friends with benefits, no expectations, no obligations, no stems, no seeds, no stress, was ISFP. The only type of girl I could ever really do that with. And in that regard, I mean, ISFPs are chill. Octavia Silva and I are chill. They're cool, they're easy to get along with. I can kind of make fun of them a little bit because the one I went out was particularly ditzy. Like, I like going to the beach. It's nice. I like the wind blowing on the boat. I like going to the spa. Going to the spa is great. Cool. You want another margarita? I can't get enough of this fascinating talk here. What with you liking going sailing, you like the spa, you like going hiking sometimes. You kind of like your job. Yeah, have another margarita. Let's get you liquored up, girl. No, I don't drink, but believe me, I have no problem buying margaritas for you, sweetheart. You both value commitment. That's good. His strengths are your weaknesses. It's hard, though, because I do get lonely because he doesn't understand my thoughts or how I view life and people. See, that's a tricky one, Andy. I got to tell you, it is tricky. I feel incredibly empowered to be me with Rachel, which is to say, I have a lot of words to say. She's interested in talking about the same kind of words and listening to my words and being a fellow intuitive. It's something I've never had before. I never found it particularly easy to talk to my significant other, or felt especially close to them. And I'd say in some sense, I felt closer to Kimberly than I had to my second wife or my first wife. At least I felt some sort of connection there. It's just so goddamn toxic and how the thing played out. But yeah, I've never I've never experienced anything like the ease and comfort of being in this relationship. Is it the fact that Rachel's an INFJ? I don't think that's the only part of it. I think it's that she's an INFJ who's been beaten down some and um, has had to manage some FE setbacks, substantial FE setbacks that have disallowed her from maintaining that kind of deep cool of INFJs at all time. And so, she's more real. We're very real with each other. Not that INFJs in general aren't real, but Rachel's learning increasingly day by day, and so am I, that it's perfectly safe to be in each other's company. Rachel wants to talk shit about, this fucking bitch, man. I feel you, dog. I say that shit too sometimes. And you're right. That cunt shouldn't have done that. Whatever it was. But, by and large, we're very positive and very affirming and very conscious of each other's vulnerabilities. We're healing together is exactly right, Octavia Silva. She probably has a little more healing to do than I do because she's suffered more damage at the hands of more people. And she's had less of a silver spoony kind of existence. I really started to think more and more about how fortunate I am to have family that loves me and has always been very loving and positive and fair, most of all, and not ontologically oppressive, not being Mrs. DeRop from Sredni Vashtar. See, Rachel lived with Mrs. DeRop. If you don't read the story or read it, I put up a video today of me reading it out loud. It takes 10 minutes to read it out loud. It's such a short story, but it's absolutely brilliant. Brilliant short story. That guy, Saki, boy, what a good writer. There are no unnecessary words in that story. But there aren't too few words either. It's almost entirely narrative, very little dialogue in it, which usually is a recipe for disaster if you're talking about fiction writing of any sort. But man, that guy can pull it off. He's like Captain Rider Pants or something. So I'm looking especially sporty today in periwinkle shirts and black shorts. Here's a sporty pose. Like that. This is one of those like lifestyle ads. Hey guys, want some pineapple? Like the JCPenney ads. Which I'd always look at as a kid. The catalogs would come. It'll be like this. What? What? One thing I enjoy with Rachel is looking at little video clips like I showed her yesterday or the day before. I don't know exactly what it was. The call of the Breeders' Cup race where Zenyatta won, Trevor Denman's call of it. Such an incredible horse race. One of the most exciting horse races in history, for sure. And the call of it by Trevor Denman was great. He set it up in advance. He's like, Zenyatta's got a lot of ground to make up. She's 10 lengths back. He's South African. she's 10 minutes back in traffic. Maybe she can pull this off. She'll be some kind of super horse. And then Zenyatta, like, literally starts off dead last, way at the back of the field. Shit tons of lengths back. They're going slow fractions, too, which means the horses aren't running especially fast in the front. That usually bodes ill for a closer like Zenyatta. So, anyway, to make matters worse, not only are they going slow fractions, but she is stuck behind a big pack of horses. She's not going to get to go on the rail, a short trip. She's not going to cut between horses. She's forced to go all the way outside, okay? And she does. And she's the only girl horse in this race. All the other horses are boys. Zenyatta came into the Breeders' Cup with an undefeated filly career, just recently against other girls, but had limited tests against the boys. So, so she starts running down that field along the straight there, the grandstand straightaway in Santa Anita. It was right here. I saw it on TV, though. I didn't see it in person. But, you know, I live right near, really close to Santa Anita racetrack. And he's like, and here comes Zenyatta. It's running out the rail there now. And Zenyatta, here she comes. Unbelievable. Zenyatta. It was such an exciting call. You got to check it out. Zenyatta Breeders' Cup race. This is one we'll never forget. Yeah, such a excited voice in it. It's great. Another kind of that kind of FE fun is the Millsap. I forget what the other team was called. That Millsap game where they had that last play with like 15 or 20 different laterals, and they finally scored a touchdown after running around the field. It took like a minute and a half to run this one play because they kept throwing it all around the field, every direction. And they have like these student announcers, right? Who are trying to. It's Division III football, so it's like weak ass football. In terms compared to like Division I anyway. And he's trying to announce it, and it's a lateral, and he's got it, he's making it. It's so exciting. And then they're just like, everybody's just flipping out on the field, you know, because this ridiculous play took such a long time to finally complete. I also showed Rachel the Kirk Gibson home run, famous Kirk Gibson home run, and Ben Scully's call on it. And then we watched a couple of other videos about Ben Scully, one where this guy did this amazingly perfect Ben Scully imitation. Now, it was just a couple of years ago that Ben Scully was still broadcasting for the Dodgers. Like, you can find footage of him broadcasting games. Yeah, well, Scully was great, and I grew up with him. My mom was a huge Scully fan. Scully's probably, in my mind, the best, like, the coolest ISFJ I can think of. Ben Scully. Total ISFJ. No doubt about it in my mind. Yeah, my mom was like obsessed with him, and she always like he'd make some sort of literary reference. She'd be like, "Oh, Ben Scully is wonderful." Yeah, she's an English teacher, and like she's an example of a healthy ISFJ. My mom was, in the sense that she was enamored of extroverted intuition. And even though Ben Scully has it in the fourth slot, and he would repeat his things that he does, and And it's like he did a lot of research before each series. So the Pirates coming to town, he had this set of stories about the Pirates, which he would repeat each game. Some of the stories would get repeated twice or three times, you know. And he had a set number of them. And it was very much non-improvisational. When he called a home run, that Kirk Gibson home run, he says, you know, long fly ball, it is gone. And then silence. He doesn't say a goddamn thing, just lets the crowd cheer and lets people listen to the crowd going ape shit. And then finally he says, in a season that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. And that's really all he says about the home run the whole time. Whereas Trevor Denman, who's a horse racing announcer, so he's obviously always talking. He doesn't shut up through the whole thing, but you don't want him to. He's so great at it. You know, he's the best, in my opinion, he's the best horse racing announcer. And I feel lucky that we have him at Santa Anita. I felt lucky when we had Ben Scully. I felt very lucky when we had Chick Hearn. Of all of the announcers, I think Chick Hearn is the best. He was the best. He's an EHP, clearly, and he was Laker basketball for me. If you listen to some Chick Hearn broadcast back in the day, like in the 70s or 80s, when he's going lightning fast, worthy with the ball in the life, it's awesome. And he can so many different phrases and terms and stuff. You know, bunny hop in the pea patch, no harm, no foul, a lot of shit, all kinds of stuff. He'd have his chickisms, but he'd always be generating new shit too. Like when Shaquille O'Neal started playing for the Lakers, he called him Shaq O'Neal. Prior to that, everybody called him either Shaq or Shaquille O'Neal. Desert INTJ. Bill Walton. If there were any justice in the world, if Bill Walton ever approached Chick Hearn, back when Chick Hearn was alive, Bill Walton would have died on the spot, just out of shame for being so much worse. Good night, Octavio Silva. Sleep well. Don't let the red bugs bite. Okay. Well, if God exists and is an EHP, he probably is not responsible for all the random shit. He's just like, you guys are totally misinterpreting this. Yeah. That's not what I'm. Why do you take everything so literally? That's probably what God is thinking about all these various religions. I mean, I think theological questions, to the extent that they link to values or morals, relate to what axiomatically we ought to prioritize. And in that regard, I think Christianity is the most powerful of the religions because it prioritizes the best thing, namely forgiveness. And so I think prioritizing something else, like relieving yourself of attachment, well, that's trying to excise what ought not be excised, in my opinion. Or for other kinds of religions, such as Islamic religions, there's a lot of protocols and TE and FE involved. And to me, that's not the point of those things, but that's why they're them and I'm me, I guess. So I did this tonight with Rachel. I suddenly had pop into my head. I don't know where it came from or why I started thinking it, but I suddenly had pop into my head this melody. Dun, 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 dun. I was like, okay, what is this song? I couldn't figure it out. Dun, 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 dun. I knew it was some famous song. I couldn't tell what it was. Well, Rachel put together some of the words from it. She recognized it too. And when I Googled it, it was. Anybody know what song that is? It's been ages since I had heard it. Bizarre Love Triangle by New Order. And it's kind of weird chord progression. It goes like this: D sharp, F, D minor. And it just repeats the whole time. Every time I see you falling, I get down on my knees and pray. I'm waiting for that final moment. You'll say the words that I can't say. And I feel good. I'm feeling like I never should. Whenever I get this way, I just don't know what to say. It's like that's all the chords do. It's just the whole time through. It's just D sharp, F, D minor, D sharp, D sharp, F, D minor, D sharp. Every time I see you falling, I get down on my knees and pray. I'm waiting for that final moment. You'll say the words that I can't say. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Why did that song come into my head of all songs? I don't know. Who knows how long it had been since I'd heard that song? Probably years. Something obviously triggered me to think of that melody. But I don't know what it was. And it's funny when you try to play songs like that, though, they're surprisingly straightforward. It's just those three chords over and over again. You know what I'm saying? Like Kesha, Die Young. That's an interesting song. Doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to it, but C minor, B, E, A through the whole song. That's all there is to it. C minor, B, E, A. Okay. Looks like it's very simple. I hear your heartbeat to the beat of the drums. Oh, what a shame that you came here with someone. So while you're here in my arms, let's make the most of the night like we're gonna die young. Young hearts, out of mind, out of mind, wild child, looking good, living hard just like we should. Don't care who's watching, cause we're tearing it up. You know, the magic in your pants is bending down, you know. Looking for some trouble tonight. Take my hand, I'll show you the wild side. Like it's the last night of our lives. We'll keep on dancing till we die. I hear your heartbeat to the beat of the drums. Oh, what a shame that you came here with someone. So while you're here in my arms, let's make the most of the night like we're gonna die young. It's pretty straightforward song, Not a lot to it. Just four chords. Now, in contrast, this song that I often like to play, Misty, is a much more interesting song. You know, it's like E flat major 7, B flat minor 7, E flat 7, A flat major 7. So there are a bunch of weird chords, right? But you can just play with the bass notes if you don't know all those chords. Oh, let's play down there. Okay. Look at me. Okay. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. That's where to play that? Look at me. I'm as helpless as a kitten. Look at me. I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. And I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand. I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play. Or it might be the sound of your hello. The music I hear, I get misty the moment you're near. And can't you see that you're leading me on? But it's just what I want you to do. Don't you notice how hopelessly I'm lost? That's why I'm following you. On my own, would I wander through this wonderland alone? Never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove. I'm too misty and too much in love. Misty and too much in love. It's pretty jazzy, as jazz goes. If you like jazz, then you'll like jazzing when you're jazzing with me. So, don't trust the Spanish with religious matters. Good advice. Good advice. Nothing. You say. Way back in December, or was it November? October, it's hard to say. My friends tried to warn her, and say you just want it, go away, go away. But it didn't. Love for me stayed here. paper and listen to the way back in December, or was it November? October, it's hard to say. My friends tried to warn her, they say it was horny. And I go away, go away, go away. State your game. There ain't angels in the way. It doesn't mean a thing. They are thinking about you, about you. Stay. I don't know. That song is called State Your Game, or Angels in the Wings by Corey. I'm trying to figure out how to play it. It's a great song, but I'm not very good at playing it yet. So, message retracted, message retracted, message retracted, message retracted. I'm retracting all my messages. Message retracted. Okay, I'm gonna play a real song now. Not just gonna fuck around. Okay, I'm gonna play a real song. Really gonna think it's a great song. I love every second of it. Okay, so get ready to turn on your excitement buttons because you're gonna be excited by this one. Just as soon as I decide what it is I'm gonna play, I'm gonna be hella excited about it. Hella, say. In the Pacific Northwest. I don't know. Where do they say hella? Do they say hella in New York? No, I'm not sure. I play this Sammy song. I've been playing this a lot, getting pretty accustomed to it. I can almost play it well enough, I guess, to perform it. Sammy has a story that need be told. This is a song for an open road, and such a thing must always do its job. Married up Jeff, turned 19, 4 years and 3 kids. Weary now and questioning the path. I should see, yeah, grace is special, knocking in our courses. Ready to live, the urgency converts when we just pressure. Making sure those underneath them always run. Doug get 20-pound bourbon fun, likewise Doug get bourbon fun, likewise Doug at 21, and so forth well up into middle age. Once it seemed to set him free, became his whole identity. Now Doug's about another drunken breed. Agency, yeah, grace and discretion, locking in our courses. Way too young, the urgency converted, really just pressure. They'll offer you incentives, but they haven't got a thing that's fun. Everybody's panicked about the kids. Lock them up with extra dextrin. Mathematics produce success, or impose more unjust arrest. Agency, got base and discretion, locking in our courses. Where you young, the urgency converts, really just pressure. They'll offer you incentives, but they haven't got a thing that's fun. Without consent, it's really just oppression. Our parasites surviving on the wages earned by lying, while they feed their fear of dying. Yeah, they feed upon the futures of the young. pretty mediocre, but not the end of the world. I'm going to put down this for a moment so that we can. That song is called Sammy's Song. Song I wrote. It's one of my probably my most recently written song that I would consider fully completed. That's a good sign, Desert INTJ. That means it's a good song. It's like, how do I put it? The best songs are universally resonant as familiar, but you can't place exactly where you've heard them before, and they've got some aspects to them that are different and make them go from just an I to being intuitively poppy, like pops. I was gonna play here. Big problem. Okay. So this one's a hard one to play, but it's a good song when I have it produced up, but not. I mean, it's not just as good a song, but it's not one that really super lends itself to acoustic, I guess. I mean, just by itself, acoustic by itself. Oh, he came here with her, and what's the big problem that you can't endure? You seem so sure it's not appropriate claiming to blame things on Scott. Despite getting caught, got you refraining for him, straining for him, going to the gym to make yourself get enough again. Yeah, you guys both have lost invested. That's not a reason to stay around. Through the years, you've both been tested. And move up and higher ground. Oh, he came here with her. So what's the big problem that you can't endure? It seems so sure it's not appropriate claiming to blame things on Scott. Despite getting caught, he got you refraining for him, refraining for him, refraining for him, training for him, going to the gym to make yourself get enough again. Be done with him. So it's a good song, but I don't really execute brilliantly or anything. I need to practice it. Like a lot of things, I just need to practice them more. I get a chance to practice them around here, which is nice. People are fairly indulgent to me in that. And if they're not, well, I go and I just practice on myself, I guess. No big deal. Certainly something I can do. I really like to play What's the Matter. Let's see if I can find it. I think this one might be what's wrong with the ladies. Yep, there it is.
What's the matter with?
What's the matter with Chad? Is he terribly bad? Is he very like Dan, who's a terrible man? Is he sort of like Jill, who can't pay a bill? Or rather like Jack, who's stuck on the facts? What's the matter with Sue? Will she know what to do? If they bring attitude, she shall win. She talks about you whenever we go walking. What's the matter with Bryn? Is she living in sin? She'll be living with Dan, terribly thin. Living with Frank, stealing fish from my tank. He's colluding with you, and I'm talking with Lou. What's wrong with the ladies? What's the matter with me? From the feelings of hey, to the coldness of sin. They talk about you whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser days, paths that lead to lesser days, but still I think over watered paths. And whoever's left that's still okay, just tie the sails to the mast. Are you angry at Ken or at Neville again? Don't bother with Kev, he's practically dead. Focus on Bert, he's medium hurt. What's the point for Liz? Did she fail a quiz? What's the matter with Drew? Will she know what to do? If they bring her to, will she show ingenuity? She talks about you whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser, paths that lead to lesser days. But still I feel over, still from the over water path. Still okay, tie the sails to the mast. 'Cause each of us have much and gravely sinned. Throw up the hands, stiffen the chin. Catastrophe looms heavy overhead again. Time's gone, will never be again. They're a pretty shitty job of playing that. It's kind of tricky. I don't have very good breath control right now. I'm feeling like, it's hard to sing and play at the same time, I guess. Get Amelia. Okay.
Amelia, go from that place.
Here we go. Amelia, go from that place. Take unto you the details of your case. Amelia, when you rise above, floating ahead and soaring like a dove. What will they say when they look at you then? Moving sideways into space. Moving sideways with that certainty grace. Amelia, can see? I will never be Amelia, yet you're still free. It's too much opportunity to leave out in the rain, Amelia. Amelia, we're watching you fail for sure. No matter what we do, Amelia, when you rise above, floating ahead and soaring like a dove, what will they say when they look at you, then moving sideways from the space you went? Where inside along with your thirsty grin, Amelia, can't you see? You and I were meant to be, Amelia, yet you're still free. With too much opportunity to leave out in too much opportunity to leave out in too much opportunity to leave out in the rain, Amelia. Something like that. My hands tired. I played too much guitar today already. I'm gonna put it down now. I'm done with the guitar for the day. You know, Eric is just my slave name, actually. I prefer to be called. Well, I've got a few names in mind besides Eric, such as the Fist of Victory or Urgent! Exclamation point. That'd be a pretty good name. Urgent! Thanks, Andy. Pew pew. I wish I could play it a little bit better. You know, I've been waxing poetic about my friend Corey's songwriting ability. His songs are I don't know who TwFP is. I try to write catchy songs, you know. Some of them are catchier than others. I want to master doing exactly the right strumming pattern for things. That's very slow in coming, because when you play a song certain chords or whatever, you can strum it different ways. But some songs I play a million times, I start to get down exactly what the strumming pattern is. You know, like. Mess up, but he's got a very specific way to strum it, right? Like everything is supposed to be strummed a certain way. Some of them supposed to go like, you know, and some of them something different. Whereas with some other ones, my songs, I play them in somewhat different ways a little bit. Like this one is getting pretty standardized at this point. The Destruction of the Forgotten World. And I'm pretty good at playing that one. Never heard of Streetlight Manifesto. Okay, well, I'll check out with any sort of certainty. Which song did you think it resembled to you or whatever? And like which song of mine was it you're talking about? I'm not sure. Oh, we need to know. We need to see. We need to pen happenings down by our means to judge a logic of life we divisibly align, from which will rarely budge. Up enemies outraged at how they miss a sign. Now Tuesday set the priorities. These foreign backstabbing entities. Ancient man, heartache and misery to follow necessarily from the savage ways. Insulting, causing misery. We're stuck in such petty lesson. All partition of the and construction of the whole damn world. To be shared and all limits. Hoping Julie does too. For 4 minutes. We just can't share things like they do. And Julie always thought that she should have bought to when she had the chance to buy. And Julie always thought about the should and not told things. You recall that? People everywhere gather up, enemies outraged at how this is a sign. How do they set their priorities? These foreign backstabbing entities. To win heartache and misery follow necessarily from the savage ways. And so in causing and desperate, we're stuck in such petty larceny. We all partition directories and construction of the whole world. Boom! Is it viable to write music without any idea of how to actually play it? Because it seems interesting, the whole concept of running and singing and actually playing instruments. Absolutely, it's perfectly reasonable to write music without playing anything, you know? Like, I got this song I was thinking about figuring out how to make into a real song that I wrote a long time ago, just a cappella. It goes, why can't you? Tarantulas will get you if you go outside and see. Ba-da-na-na-na, ba-da-na-da, 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 something like that. Like, I wrote that part a long ass time ago, just singing in the car. I had words for a stretch of it for a while too, like outside. And I've been in the company of strangers. Anyway, that's a song I wrote just singing. I wrote the beginning part of What's Wrong with the Ladies, just singing. In other words, I came up with this thing that goes, what's the matter with Chad? Is he terribly bad? Is he rather like Dan? Is a terrible man? Is he sort of like Jill? Come here, Bill. Rather like Jack, stuck on the facts. But I came up with that melody line first. And then it was over a decade later that I wrote the rest of the song. So you don't necessarily have to play instruments to write a song. You will find if you sing a song and write a song just by singing it, that it probably will be fairly straightforward chords. Like for example, in that What's the Matter song, it's just E, D, A, or E, D, B, I think. Or E, A, B. You know, it's like one of those things. It's very straightforward. So, I remember my friend Dave Porter, who used to be in my band Puppy Bus with me, he wrote this song called Drink. I'm there, and you're there, Forget you for a moment, and I can't forget you for a moment. I don't remember the words here, but that's basically a song he wrote a cappella, and I figured out the chords here. It was just all E, A, D, A, and G. So yeah, you don't have to write complicated songs to have them be successful. Good songs, you don't have to write. You don't have to know how to play an instrument well or anything even to make a good song. But I find my better songs generally come from playing the guitar. Another song I wrote by a cappella was called "You Would Agree." And with the day, we jump in, just drive away. What was that? You can just do rap. You can rap to this beat. Here we go. We'll like this one. I get a drum beat too. And then we will play the old Mexican songs. Like and then it's over again. You only tell me quizás, 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 quizás. You only tell me perhaps, if you can make your mind up, well, then it's and you don't wanna wind up being party, looking at me. Anyway, perhaps is a Mexican song. So I don't want to play the guitar. I'm picking it up again. Here I am picking it up. I was going to get a beat, a musical beat, so we could all rap together. That'll be more fun than not a beat. Completely dumb shit? Why, that's my favorite kind of shit. You've got too much expectations. A lot of the problem is that you've got expectations. You've got to allow it to be rhythmic and progressive. You've got to allow it to serve purpose for the beat. You've got to exceed the high expectations. Right. Ah. Day, day. Don't be living in a Bobo the Clown kind of day where Bobo clowns walk around getting all up in your hay. Don't be like Bobo, because that guy's a clown. And he's not the happy one. He wears a big crown. I said, don't be like Bobo, because that guy's a clown. There. That's better. Whew. That's better now. Where's my cigarettes? Wherefore art thou, cigarettes? What time is it? 1 o'clock in the morning? No, they can't hear me inside the house. I don't think anybody can hear me. Maybe the neighbors behind me, like right there, maybe. But even them, little, it's across their backyard, and there's a wall between me and them, and there's also inside this house there's space between. My dad obviously can't hear anything. If they can hear anything at all from in here, it'd be a faint hum or something. When says Mom, I had intended to Dungeon Master for your son tonight, but I forgot about it until it was too late. But let's try to schedule a day where I put it on my calendar and the time and stuff, and then it'll actually happen. Because then once it's in my calendar, then it has a lot more power. It has the power of Greystone. This also enjoys the power of Greystone. I'll tell you, we're going to have to go back to the weed store again tomorrow. Almost out of weed again. We did so well for such time, but watch out for sharks. Good advice, regardless of whether you are on the ocean, in the ocean, on a lake, in a stream bed, near a road, or any place else where sharks congregate. That's good advice. Watch out for the sharks. Excuse me for just one moment. Okay, let me. I'll be right back. Please chat among yourselves. I'm going to find something real quick. flashlight though. Where's my red flashlight? Oh, there it is. wow. I just did something kind of wild and crazy. Pretty wild and crazy, really. So, when we went on a walk earlier tonight, I noticed that there was this swarm of bees that was sitting in a circle like a dinner plate on the ground in the street. And then another swarm that had gotten run over on the street, even. Like, there was a pile of dead bees, too. But, hi, Angantir. So, anyway, I went outside right now. It's cold outside, so the bees are very not lively. They're all swarming in this pile in the street, a circle, like a dinner plate sized pile of bees in the street. So I went out there and I set up this old wooden box that seems like it would be ideal for bees to live in the back. I moved some of the stuff that was in there off to the side a little bit and made room for bees. And so then I went out to the street and I scooped them all up and I put them in this little blue, like Tupperware kind of container thing. And I put them in the box back there. So I think I got a queen in the mix. I think it's a whole flock of bees, with the queen and everything. They were all sort of wiggling around her, I guess, to keep her warm. So hopefully they like their new home that I made for them there outside. It should be ideal for them, really. And yeah, I'm gonna have my own swarm of bees. Ideally, I'd like to make an official bee box and move them all into the bee box, but this will have to do for the time being. Oh, my poor kitty is still favoring that foot. Korean pop choreography. So how long have you been married for, Zandy? I'm curious about this. I didn't picture you as married. I was talking about my previous relationships with Rachel where she's feeling jealous or, I guess, perhaps somewhat at risk of like me getting grass and greener or something like that. You got married at 19. You've been married for 10 years. Wow. That is young to get married, and it's impressive you're still married. Oh, my poor kitty pee-pee. What a beautiful and important kitty friend. I am sorry about your little foots. So what made you get married so young? You just were like, I love you, I want to get married? Were your parents okay with that? Or were they like, that's too young, Zandy? Or were they like, yeah, get married. Go balls out. I got married when I was 28 for the first time. Terrible marriage. But obviously, most people don't do as badly as an bipolar person does in picking partners. I figure I got probably another hour or so. I'm gonna go to bed. The last time I took Adderall was around this time, 24 hours ago. But I'm still up from those 4 pills that I took. When you start a new cycle, it keeps you crazy up. However, I'm not taking more pills till after I sleep now, so I'm waiting until I'm ready to go to sleep. And maybe I'll tell a bedtime story. Is your new family life with your ISTJ husband better, preferable? Oh, my beauty. Oh, my kitty pageant winner. You're constantly winning kitty pageants again for the first time forever. Oh, my beauty. Oh, my special kitty friend. Daddy loves you so much because you're my kitty friend. So, around here, people have a lot of more time than they normally have. I see so many pedestrians walking around the neighborhood with their dogs, jogging, riding their bikes, walking with their kids. It's nice. The neighbors brought us a loaf of home baked bread the other day. Why? Well, I guess I got nothing better to do than break bread. Bake bread. Break bread, bake bread, bake bed, and make shed. So I'm very curious about the bees and how they're going to fit into their new home there. And if, in fact, they're satisfied with that spot, they really should be satisfied with that spot. It's a good spot for them. But whether or not they're actually satisfied, well, that remains to be seen. We're going to keep them out of the garage, and my dad will be like, why are there so many bees in the garage? Let me just keep this on the DL. Eric started a bee farm. I mean, what a golden opportunity. Literally a dinner plate sized swarm of bees sitting in the middle of the street because it's going to be dark next time. They haven't found a good place to live yet, so they're just sitting in the middle of the street in a big pile. Well, not in the middle of the street, but off the side of the street. Yeah, hopefully I'll get fresh honey. I've wanted to get honey out of that hive in the neighbor's house. I think what happened is the bees outgrew that hive, and so they are setting off a new colony, trying to find a place for the queen to live. Well, hopefully I've resolved their issue right now. Okay, Kitty, don't lick your paw quite so much, please. She's still really favoring that leg, but it doesn't look like it's infected or anything, so that's good. And it was a bit of a challenge taking the bandage off. It was quite adhered to her skin and fur by the stickiness of the tapes. We did eventually get it off, though, after much battling with her. She's such a good kitty. She sits there, and as long as I'm holding her, she'll let us try to work on it. She tries to squirm away, but she never tries to scratch me or anything. Is that better now, Pee-Pee, that you got that bandage off? You're going a little crazy with the licking, but whatever. The other thing I did about NTJ is, let's say I get in some sort of ninja battle and I need a special attack. Well, I will spit bees at people. Hopefully they won't sting the inside of my mouth. So why was your home life so bad, Zandy? Did you have to do, were you the Cinderella, evil stepsisters who forced you constantly to clean things? Or were you used as the family sofa? People just sat on you all the time? Watch TV? Sofa, quit squirming, they'd say to you. Those are what we call gratifying grains. Yeah, I said that. They're all covert. Nobody's explicitly, openly a narcissist. A lot of them are very tricky like that too. Like Rachel's mother is rather tricky, and Rachel's father had gotten sort of beaten down over time. Rachel's mom's very good at convincing people that she's a sensible person who's got Briggs' best interest in mind. But, well, all you have to do is read Sredni Vashtar and you get a clear sense of what's going on there, which is, there's a line of Sredni Vashtar that says, Mrs. Drop would never, in her honestest moments, have admitted that she disliked the boy. She might have been faintly aware that thwarting him for his own good was not a duty she found particularly irksome for his own good, in quotes, when you got people who are looking to bust you, who are looking to get you in trouble or criticize you or whatever because you fucked up again, you did something else wrong, you're always trying to get back to zero. Well, that's fucking horrible. Yeah, that sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that. The more people I talk to, the more sold I am on the idea that I had a very lucky life situation. Lucky to be well loved by my parents and loved properly. Lucky to be dealing with people who are fundamentally fair and decent most of the time. Lucky to be protected financially by my family in difficult times. Lucky across the board. So, most people I talk to don't have that kind of idyllic upbringing that I had. They're pretty idyllic. I mean, I had a lot of friends who are same age peers on the street, unsupervised, largely. We just sort of run around and do our thing. I was talking with Rich on the car the other day about how when we were little, like maybe under second grade or something, under third grade, I don't know. We were very perverted children. Like Kelly, my friend Kelly from across the street, she and I would always play Naked King and Queen in one of our rooms. We'd just take off all of our clothes. And I don't know. When I was younger than that, I remember being in Tracy Flack's playhouse behind her house in her backyard and attempting to make sexual intercourse at her with my little 5 or 6 year old wiener by pushing it up against her little badge and trying to make it go in there, having learned about the mechanics of it from some sort of birds and bees talk, a lot of like naked perverted stuff amongst the little children. I'm pretty sure that shit doesn't happen anymore. People are pretty well supervised, kids are. And I don't know, without any, in the media vacuum of a pre-internet life as well, that probably allows things to go undefined for longer or something. Regardless, we were perverted little kids. Perverted as hell. But not really sexually. It didn't feel very sexual when I was a little kid, it seemed to me. It was just sort of, well, I want to see, I want to look at that, or whatever. I want to look at your lack of penis. Why is it so different there? Why is there just this little slit there? We also played some innocent games. Another recent conversation between me and Rachel, I highlighted this game that the boys and I used to play with each other all the time when we were kids. And it went by the name of Who Can Do It the Best. Now, Who Can Do It the Best to me sounds like the name of a game that I played a lot when I was a kid. It's got this title quality to it. Of course, you think by the name of this game, Who Can Do It the Best, it's a ridiculous name for a game. And the game was like, okay, well, who can climb up this wall the fastest? Who can jump down from this tree from a higher branch? Who can run across this lawn, jump that driveway, and then slide into the tree? Like that's the kind of shit we could play with. Who can do it the best? But when I mentioned it to Rachel, this game we used to call Who Can Do It the Best, she laughed at the title of it. She was like, Who Can Do It the Best? That sounds like a board game. Yeah, that was our board games. We played Who Can Do It the Best. We played Little Cars. When I got a little bit older, Paul, my friend Paul from the street, and he would come over and we'd chat. He's probably ISFJ, maybe ESFJ. A lot of SI, shit ton of SI. Yeah, we had a lot of kids in that direction. No supervision either. And a very dangerous world. So that same friend Paul and I and his sister Sammy was also in the van. We fell out of the VW bus that my mom was driving one time. It turned around a corner because we were playing another game that we like to play called Stand Up in the Bus. Stand Up in the Bus was an excellent game because the children would all stand up in the bus and, mom would turn and we'd all go, whoa, fall over onto the side. Oh. Back when I was a kid, parents were perfectly content letting the kids play stand up in the bus. Except that time that we turned on Colorado, right turn on Colorado, I still remember it to this day, it's a clear day in my head. And Paul and I both fell out of the van playing stand up in the bus. We fell against the door and it opened up and we were out on the streets all of a sudden. And I was like rolling and I looked up and this car goes, like it's about to run me over, but it's tops in time, right? And then I stood up and I burst into tears because my mom was driving away. And I thought she didn't know we were falling out of the bus. Now, Sammy, who was still in the bus, who didn't fall out of the bus, Paul's sister, she told my mom then at some point that Paul and I had fallen out of the bus, and my mom came back and got us. And she had to take Paul to the doctor to he had a lump on his head. He hit his head, but he was fine. And I had like a scrape on my knee or something. I was fine too, but I almost got ran over by a car. The thing, I can still visualize it. Like I was rolling on the ground, look up, and the bumper's like right there, but I was fine. That's the sort of shit we did when we were kids. There was nobody wore helmets. Reflectors amongst my group of friends were considered sissy things that you needed to remove from your bike. Reflectors were not cool. They were lame, and you shouldn't have reflectors on your bikes. Well, of course, like, what if you want to ride at night, right? You really should have reflectors on your bike so people can see you. Of course, that was not a consideration. Literally nobody wore helmets, and people did all kinds of crazy shit. People get hurt and stuff. I remember, kids dying from jumping off of this rock into the water off a chantry before they like dynamited that spot, because every couple of years somebody would die jumping off of that thing. And then I got injured badly as a kid multiple times. I got this terrible burn on my hand that made me have a webbed hand for most of my life until I was 18. In which case, I got an operation. Prior to that, I couldn't open my hand any more than this. It was just like as far as I could open it. Now I can open it that far. That was burning my hand on a light bulb when I was 9 months old. Don't remember it. I don't remember cracking my head open. Also, when I was a baby or a toddler, I was in one of those round rolly things, rolling down the sidewalk or driveway. Apparently, hit a rock and went, cracked my head open. You can totally feel the crack and this weird like pyramid bump thing that I got right here. Then later, I remember when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I was on my bicycle. We were all riding down towards Tony's. Somebody fell off their skateboard, went under my bike, and got in the wheel and caused me to crash. And I went like over the handlebars. You're telling me like stop abruptly, right? I went over the handlebars and slid on my chest on the cement. And it took me to the doctor because I scraped all the skin off of my chest. I broke my finger once. I got hurt at choir a couple of times. Once I was a Big Bear, and somebody threw a stick at me and hit me like right here. And we were playing, we were always throwing sticks at each other and stuff. It wasn't like they were throwing. We were having a war at the time. We're throwing sticks and some occasional rocks and stuff. And you're not supposed to throw rocks. It's sort of a boy's rule. Don't throw rocks. You can throw sticks. Anyway, I got hit right here with a stick, and it bled, just huge amounts of blood. So, it didn't hurt really at all. But they made me go to the doctor anyway, and I got a couple stitches. Then another time of choir practice, I did the same thing on my chin. I cracked it open and bled like fucking hell. But that was me cracking open myself. I was not paying attention, turning like this, cracking a drinking fountain. But I got in some fights as a kid. I got in some fights in middle school, and elementary school. I didn't get in any fights, I don't think, in high school. But I got in fights in elementary school and middle school. I was walking or riding my bike to school by myself or with my friends from like second or third grade on. No, but I didn't walk to the little school. Third grade. Third grade, we started walking to the big school, which is right up a few blocks up this from my house here. It's called Hugo Reed Elementary School. There's two of them. There's one is a primary school, which we call the little school. That's K1, 2, and then the other one is the elementary school, and that's what we call the big school. And it's 3, 4, 5, 6, or it was at the time. Middle school was just 7 and 8. No, I'm sorry, middle school was 7, 8, 9, and then high school was 10, 11, 12. Anyway, I rode my bicycle to Foothills Middle School like practically every day, and it was quite some distance away and up a hill, and it was a pain in the ass. My biggest problem was I would often crash my bike. I was famous for crashing my bike all the time, mostly because I wasn't paying attention. I would try to read books while I was riding my bike. I would try to read my fantasy book that I was reading while riding my bike. I crashed into parked cars as a consequence. I'd go no-handed, read my book, and try to read and ride my bicycle at the same time, no-handed. Anyway, it was kind of like something I was frustrated about. I used to be mad about as a kid because everybody said, like, you always crash your bike. You're always crashing. I'm not always crashing my bike. I'm not a bad bicycle rider, basically. Yes, I know how to ride my bicycle just fine. I'm not bad at it. I'm just I'm not paying attention. I'm busy thinking about something or whatever at that moment. That's why I crashed. It's not because I don't know how to ride a bike. Of course, in retrospect, it's a silly distinction to make, but whatever. It's like, how else was I going to get to school? I mean, the alternative was take the bus, and talk about not cool. One thing that was totally lame, if you were a boy in my neighborhood, was riding the school bus. You had to be incredibly lame to ride the school bus. Only girls or like super dorky guys rode the school bus. It was well established that school bus riders were lame. So I wasn't going to ride a school bus, obviously. I got third slot FE. There was a long stretch as well where it was very clear that the only cool way to take your lunch to school was in a brown paper bag. It was cooler than buying lunch. It was cooler than a plastic bag by a million. I remember one time my dad gave me like one of the old plastic disposable grocery bags for a lunch bag. I said, Dad, I can't take this. What? Look at this. I need brown paper bags. Okay? That's what everybody is. That's what's cool. I can't have this Ralph's plastic bag. You want to ruin me socially? God. Everybody knows you need the brown paper bag. That's for school lunches. That's why those brown paper bags exist. Specifically for that purpose. So you have to use those. Now, I tell you what was even dorkier than a Ralph's bag. Lunch pail. Nobody who was cool brought a lunch pail. Okay, lunch pails were for babies. Second graders had lunch pails, first graders. Once you got to the big school, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, definitely fourth, fifth, sixth, no way would you be cut down with a lunch pail. Certainly not middle school. No. Nor high school for that matter. I went to a super awful high school in some ways. Like medium rich Arcadian entitled kids, uh, rich bros and hoes down at the river on their jet skis getting drunk and like it's freaking awful culture, but was improving when I left somewhat. It was beginning to improve. Things have improved a lot since then. It used to be that bullying was more brutal, more systemic, more damaging. I didn't get bullied very much. A little bit, not much. But I saw it. It just disturbed me then. Not sure what. I remember being extremely angry sometimes when I had been bullied. Like, I remember this one day, this kid was smaller than me. He was a year younger than me too. And he was a douchebag, bullyish kind of kid. And I remember one day leaving school on my bicycle. Next thing I know, I'm like at the Tiger Teeth, which is right next to my house. I was like, wow, what happened here? Sort of came to from this violent imagination fantasy thing that I was having, about beating him to death with a stick or whatever. So definitely impactful. But I did a little bit of bullying myself. I can think of a couple of instances, 3 instances I can think of specifically that I feel very ashamed of myself for having engaged in. Not that it was especially, like, it doesn't stand out among bullying stories, teasing or whatever, but I don't feel ashamed about instances where I was wrong. I feel ashamed about instances where I did wrong. I think everybody ultimately comes down to that after sufficient growth and reflection or time distance between the event and the current self. I'm going to know Mocha Rigoret, and then I'm starting to feel like I'm ready to go to sleep now. Getting pretty tired. I think if I lie down, I can. Right. Well, what Sandy says is exactly right. Children, they were more naive. They were more ignorant about a lot of stuff. There was not any conversation or real discussion about bullying. And there wasn't any place for you to escape to if you were bullied back then. There wasn't an internet where you can go and seek respite, seek either respite or, vindication of some sort or whatever. So, yeah. I'm finally running out of gas. I think I'll be able to go to sleep when I go in now. I got a lot of shit done today. A lot of stuff. Nearly hurt myself medium bad, but didn't. Just hurt myself slightly. Trying to move the aquarium today. Even though I'd taken out, I thought most of the water, and it wasn't going to be that heavy. With just, not that much water left on the bottom. Still incredibly heavy. And when I pulled it down off of the thing, my legs kind of buckled underneath me because the water sloshed all to one side. I'm like, whoa, and I kind of fell down with the aquarium on me and kind of tweaked my knee a little bit. But thereafter, I will, Zandy. I will. She was feeling a little bit fussy today, actually. A little bit, yeah, She said she was processing some old stuff, and I hypothesized that some of these things that from her past that she recalls now with anger or a sense of injustice, that she is in a space safe enough now for her to actually process them. In other words, if in your present you are so, what's the word? You're so skittish from ongoing control mechanisms and other bullshit. Yeah, it had to do with that. That her friend sort of put the squeeze on her regarding Rachel leaving, and Rachel feels as though it's unfair. It's like she gets that this woman needs a friend, and Rachel, and she got along well, and etc. But what Rachel in particular didn't like about it is the way that the woman insisted that she justify everything or explain everything. There was no holistic answers that were going to satisfy the woman. Like, no, you don't understand. This is real. This is significant. This isn't just a fling or whatever. And have the woman accept it. She needed to have everything explained, give an example. What exactly did he say? And that really bothered her, because she felt as though she was being punished for leaving New York, even though she clearly belongs here with me and is clearly happier here with me. So, and clearly in an incredibly incredibly preferable to the old environment for her by every standard I can measure by. Okay, I'm gonna go stand on the other side of the TV now. Just smoke a cigarette and I'll bring the camera over there. Oh, I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling like Naruto after he does jutsu training with his shit ton of shadow clones. It's like each shadow clone delivers an accumulated tiredness for their own action. If you're like me and you enjoy fresh, delicious pineapple, you're gonna love this fresh, delicious pineapple. Good. Wait a couple days for it to really ripen up nicely, and then I cut into it this afternoon. There's a lot of juice in a pineapple. There you go, a lot of juice. Very juicy. It makes me think that part of the reason why it's so satisfying is that I'm kind of thirsty, and it quenches my thirst with pineapple juice, which is very similar to your mom's face, which, as you can probably guess, also quenches my thirst with pineapple juice. Crazy, huh? I'm going to flip this a little bit higher because I'm now going to pee here. But I don't want to expose any of your innocent minds to my genitals. Okay, what am I doing? I'm bringing this up to the floor. I'm bringing this tool because it makes it easier to turn this direction to look at you while still successfully peeing in the scent. Good to eat, Eric. Good to eat. Good to eat, Eric. Good to eat. Good answer. Good answer. Survey says, ooh, sorry. Penguin is not an answer for things commonly served at McDonald's. Oh my goodness, the urine. The urine-tastic wonder blender. So satisfying and good. I'm currently shooting an entire string of urine from the tip of my member. My manhood, if you will. Oh, hearty scream. So yellow and wet. That's good urine. Would anybody like to sign up for urine lessons with me? I'm giving urine lessons for the low price of $700 an hour. You too can learn how to urinate. What's that, Sandy? You already know how to urinate? When did you learn that? I don't believe you. You'll usually see just how many of my fish are still around here in this tank. Because, after I had gotten almost all the water out of the tank, moved it to its new location, well, what did I have to do? I had to refill the tank with the hose. Here's the problem with that. The hose water was substantially colder than the so I was afraid, well, you're going to put your fish in shock, you kill them with cold wateriness, which does remind me of a song I learned in health class back in high school. I'm going to share it with you all now, okay? All three of you are going to hear this song that I heard in health class back in high school. Cold water, it's a watery grave. How should you not? My friends and I used to sing that song to each other and make fun of it. I thought it was funny because we had this health class film, like movie we had to watch. It was about water safety and hypothermia and stuff. So, and that was the lyrics of the song. That's how it went to the melody. Cold water, it's a watery grave. Andy, I hope you at least know better than to play around with cold water. It is, after all, a watery grave, which is pretty sad. Pretty sad. You don't want to have a watery grave, do you? Okay, I think it's bedtime story time. Are you ready for bedtime story? I think you are. I will tell it. You guys put on your pajamas, your stocking caps, if you have them, and get ready for an extremely delightful bedtime story with Eric. Okay? Crank up this heater. Okay. Don't worry, guys. All you need to do is relax and enjoy this spectacular tale of intrigue and excitement that I'm about to tell you. You want to talk intrigue? You want to talk excitement? Well, that's what you're going to get. All right. I'm going to fill up here. We got the heater at this point cranked up to 80 degrees, I believe, so it should warm up sufficiently for you to not have to have any blankets or jackets. Let's see. What kind of story am I going to tell tonight? Okay, I'll tell a mythological story. Way back when, once upon a time, in the very beginning of time, before there were the world, the people, there were nevertheless the world and the people as always. And before the beginning of time, everything that everybody did was perfectly in alignment with principles of fittedness and ineffable correct truths. Now, after the world began properly and time initiated up, of course, you were still left with an interesting situation, which is to say you had mortals and gods coexisting at the same time. Prior to the beginning of regular time, as it's called, the gods and the people collaborated in perfect coordination with each other. And the people always did precisely the bidding of the gods and followed instructions to the letter. But after the beginning of regular time, then human beings had an awakening. And when they had this awakening, they did so by enveloping themselves in wetted leaves, such that as though they were cocooning themselves in woodland detritus, but for the purpose of emerging fully human. And when encased thus in leaves, that each of these proto-humans, who were around at the beginning of regular time, attained full humanness through autoerotic ejaculatory behaviors, namely masturbation. So once they were all around and human fully now and came out of their leaves and blinked and realized they were no longer in a state of perfect robotic mind where they necessarily understood and followed the will of the gods, then they were instead now individual agents who had both agency, namely the capacity to impact the world and take action, and responsibilities according to the nature of the action they wanted to take. The gods, however, were still actively present on Earth with the peoples of the Earth, and they tried to give guidance more directly than God or whatever gods you might choose to invoke do currently. So that's the end of the introductory chapter. A little background information there for you. Now, to this new story, we're going to travel back in time to the beginning of regular time. You can think of the beginning of the regular time as being, I don't know, 25,000 years ago or so, prior to which, presumably, the gods had been in attendance, reigning over the world directly and engaging in their ability to coordinate perfectly with the world because of the rigidity of non-regular time. So when regular time began 25,000 years ago, there were a relatively small number of mortals in existence at the time. Perhaps worldwide 1 million people or so, not more than that. And in this particular area of civilization, such as it was back in the day, the population was perhaps 10% of the world's population. Many people gathered in this area. It was, in fact, Lower Mesopotamia, what is sometimes known as the Fertile Crescent. Now, currently, when we look at area around the Fertile Crescent, so called. It's very deserty and dry and awful. But back then, it was lush and verdant. There were rivers and plenty of rainfall. As weather patterns were different at the time. And it was just no more than a week or two after awakening from said perfect robotic mind that the people's personalities and identities began to form, and they began to understand their place in the world, the ways in which they could succeed and the ways in which they could fail. So we go now to the apartment, or it was really like a cottage of sorts, of one of the characters that we'll be talking some about in this story, named Devin. Devin, like I said, recently awoken from state of perfect robotic mind, found himself developing into something of a lazy fellow. Whereas prior to the beginning of regular time, humans didn't have any free will and therefore simply implemented the will of gods accordingly. After the beginning of regular time, while humans now were endowed with the capacity to make choices on how to spend that time. And Devin found himself, more often than not, doing the sort of unproductive things uh, that were almost never engaged in, if ever, prior to the beginning of regular time. Of course, Devin couldn't really remember that time period because being in a state of perfect robotic mind means lacking the independent agency and free will necessary to make one's own decisions. And in that instance, probably as well, the lack of sufficient self critique to note that it's occurring. Of course, there were not just mortals. Devin was a 26-year-old male. He lived in a bustling town in lower Mesopotamia, just near the crook of a large chunk, large section of the Tigris and or Euphrates rivers. And he and his family were doing well. His parents had a robust fishing business, and he still lived in the family cottage because he was considering entering the priesthood in Lower Mesopotamia for the god Zoroaster. Well, Devin had been thinking about it for quite some time, actually. And the reason is because he knew he didn't really want to join the army. Now, that was one career path for him. He was pretty sure he didn't want to follow in his parents' footsteps and be fisherman. And he didn't think he necessarily had the skills that one would required to have to be a skilled tradesman, like a carpenter or a leather worker or whatever have you. Besides which, he didn't really have a clear understanding of what he even ought to be doing or whether it was even bad that he was doing what he was doing. So he's thinking about all this stuff as he packed up his bag lunch and is about to head out to the local bazaar to just see what the various wares are. And as he emerges from his cottage and begins striding purposely down the street towards the bazaar, he notices out of the corner of his eye some movement coming from a house a few doors down from his, the yellow home, and he slows his pace because, of course, he already knows that a very pretty girl lives there and would like to get her attention as she emerges. Soon enough, indeed, he sees it is her. She had come out, jumped back in to grab her keys, and was now out on the front lawn again. "Hi there," said Devin. "How's it going today? You're looking quite lovely." Now, Devin wasn't particularly smooth with ladies, but he had thought this one through for quite some time. He knew he wanted to get on this girl and that he liked her a lot and she was local to him. And at 26 and unmarried, well, Devin was falling behind as far as his parents were concerned. They wanted grandchildren. And Devin was an only child himself because his mother, after his birth, had both of her ovaries pecked out of her uterus by a hawk that had gotten into the delivery room and had flown up the gaping vagina right after it had been vacated by the child therein. So Devin didn't really have any training in some aspects of socialization, but he did know that this girl next door was some he wanted to talk to, and her name was Hyacinth. Hyacinth is your name, said Devin pointlessly. Yeah, that's my name. I'm Hyacinth. Yes, you are, said Devin. I mentioned that's a very pretty name. Gee, I don't think you mentioned it. No, but thank you. He said, no problem. I wouldn't say it if it weren't true. Hyacinth. Is that a kind of flower? She says, yeah, it is. It's a kind of flower that lives in the water, like a water lily, but it's a water hyacinth instead. It's not a lily at all. Don't confuse a hyacinth for a lily. That's bad manners if you're talking to somebody named Hyacinth. And he said, wow, I will try to make sure I don't make those mistakes. If I do, I do hope you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. And she says, possibly. Depends on the nature of the mistake, the reason why you made the mistake, how plausible it would seem for you to have avoided the mistake given this preconditioned, this pre-ramble that I'm providing here. He said, oh, okay, Hyacinth, I got it. You would like to be called Hyacinth. Yeah, I'm not water lily. Sometimes people call me that, and I say, hey, different kind of flower, lady or man. And Devin's like, yeah, I hear you, dog. So, what do you want anyway? Are you just saying hi? He's like, well, actually, gosh. And he looks at the ground and he toes the dirt with his toe. Well, what are you doing? Are you trying to draw some sort of plan in the dirt or what? Trying to draw a diagram of something? No, he said, I'm not trying to draw a diagram of anything. Gosh. And she goes, man, what happened to you? A second ago we were having a normal conversation. Now you're all weird and something. I don't know what's wrong. And he says, well, I was hoping maybe, yes? I was hoping maybe, yes? You were hoping what? I was hoping maybe that you might be, yes? That I might be what? Might be interested in what? In orthology? In etymology? In entomology? No. I was hoping. Will you spit it out, please? I was hoping that you would be interested in going on a date with me. Says Devin. And Hyacinth steps back and looks him over and says, well, okay, how old are you? Devin says, 26. She goes, okay, that's fine. I'm 22. Righteous, says Devin. Yeah, I know. It's like the peak of my sexiness. And that's not true. You're going to be sexy forever. She goes, well, let's not lie. When I'm 80 years old, if I were 80 years old right now, you wouldn't be trying to get in my pants. And he's like, well, if it were you? Hyacinth says, Devin, let's not get off to a wrong start here. I don't want any bullshit. You can wine me and dine me and compliment me and stuff, and that's fine. But I don't want to hear any bullshit from you. Now, what's back of it, mister? He's like, okay, no problem. So, what made you decide to ask me out? Well, I've been living next to you for like 10 years now. And, 10 years ago, I was 16, you were only 12. Well, that wasn't going to work out. That's a little too big of a gap there, you see. So I waited till I was like, okay, well, wait till you're 18. Well, then you were only 14. It didn't fix anything. I thought you'd be closer in age by that point. Then I said, okay, we'll just wait till you're 20. Well, then you were 16, I was 20, you were in high school. It's like, that's not going to work, bro. And so I was like, well, just wait till you're 21. But same thing, you were still 17 in high school. And I was like, bro, you can't do that. That's like, you get in trouble. And then I said, well, I should just wait until I'm like 22. And then at that point, though, you were 18. I could ask you out then, but I've been pushing around for the last 4 years because you're so beautiful. And I don't know, I was just shy to ask you out. And Hyacinth says, oh, silly. And she pats him on the shoulder. And he goes, oh, thanks for the shoulder pat. I'm not sure what to make of it. You didn't say, you're so funny. And she said, tee. And he waits for it, but it's not forthcoming. So he puts in a big dramatic sigh. She's like, listen, hey, are you sighing about something? Are you sad? He's like, no, I'm just. It makes another big sigh. She goes, you're definitely sighing. I can see you sighing. I can hear it too. What are we talking about? He goes, I don't even know. Look, Hyacinth, we've both just been awake now for a couple of days from this. This is our first introduction to regular time. I happen to know, talked to a bunch of people, all of us got here the same way. In order to get out of that state of robotic mind and have independent free will like we do, we each of us had to wrap ourselves in wet leaves and masturbate. So you know the pleasure of touching your secret lady parts, right? And she says, gee, yeah, it's pretty neato. I've got special lady parts. And he goes, okay, cool. Well, listen, will you go out with me? You still haven't said yes or no. And she says, so what do you think that entails exactly? Are we going to go wrap ourselves in leaves and masturbate? He said, no, we're not doing that again. That was a one-time deal, all right? That was just to get us woken up. But I've got a new kind of masturbation in mind, okay? I'm going to masturbate into you with my penis. She says, well, how's that going to work? And he says, listen, I just have a thought. Yeah, I think if I just slide it in and out of some parts of you a few times, then something will come out eventually like it did with the leaves, right? I don't know what comes out of you guys. I heard somebody talking that there was some blood coming out of that puss. I said, why is there blood in there in the first place? And she didn't know either. None of us knew because we just got out of robotic mind, you know. We still don't know. Anywho, do you have a bloody puss? No, I don't have any blood. I've noted that I have 3 primary holes for, I guess, reproductive purposes. One of them, though, I lay these brown eggs. I think they're poops, maybe. The other one is mostly for peeing, but if you could put something up there, or then also my mouth, which seems like it would be a good. I've heard that, you males, you thrust your pointy bits at people for no particular reason. Yeah, these are well, very good reasons to make babies. Do you want to make babies? Oh, no. We're not having any babies. Listen, Hyacinth, I don't want to have any babies right now. I got shit I'm doing at home. I'm making tacos. I'm inventing tacos. Yesterday all we had was sandwiches. Today we have tacos. Why? Because I'm inventing them. Wow. What are they? They're like a sandwich kind of, except just go with it. Okay. So wait, I forget. Did you say you were going out with me or not? I don't know if I answered yet. Well, why don't you answer me? I'm asking you to go out on a date. I think you're going to invade my privacy. What privacy? Well, these clothes I got on and stuff.
a few days ago, I had no qualms about walking around naked because I didn't have any qualms about anything. But that's the robotic mind, Nowadays, I feel shy when my breasts are exposed to people in the world. I've noticed men like to look at them a lot. I'm trying to reach out and grab them. I say, "Get your hand away from my boob. Stop, you're going to get it dirty. This is my bouncy, clean pillow. Don't get it dirty, please. My chesty, bouncy, chest, clean chest pillow." And I said, "Okay, well, that's nice to know." Now, a little while later, Hyacinth went back home to her house. And she had told him, "You know what? I'm not going to go out after all. I was going to go out. Now I've talked to you. I'm going to go home." "And do what?" Don't you worry about it." "Okay. Are you going to pound on the door?" "No." "Okay. Are you going to?" "I said don't worry about it." "Okay. Well, you want to meet me at the local mead station for mead in a glass in, say, 15, 20 minutes? Make it 30 minutes. See you there, okay? I gotta go." "All right, bye." 30 minutes later, the mead station, Hyacinth shows up, and Devin's already 2 cups into his mead. "Oh my God, Devin, let me tell you, you don't need any wet leaves. You just need your fingers and some imagination. I must have come about 10 or 12 times between when you left and I got here." "Really?" said Devin. "I don't think I can do that. I know already because I've tried." It was like after I tried that the first time with the wet leaves, I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's this? What is this thing? What is this tuggable thing on my middle midriff there? I can pull on and poke into things and do such things like that. And it's got a nice little wrinkly package with it as well. What are these things? I'm curious now," is what I said at the beginning. Now I'm not so curious anymore. Now I understand that those things are for when a man and a woman love each other very, very much. And otherwise, you'll go straight to hell. And Hyacinth says, "Well, good news, buddy. Give me a flagon of that mead. Come on, let's go back to my place. Because I got to show you something I learned yesterday in the evening, just doing a little experimenting." He said, "Hey, Clay, I'm all ears." She said, "Now look at this. Come here. First, take off all my clothes." So he obliges her, takes off all of her clothes, and then she lies on the bed. She spreads her legs wide open. "Now look at this. You see this part down here? This slitty part? That's where your penis goes, I think. I'm pretty sure. But most importantly, I want to point to this little button thing on the top part up here. What in the world is this? It is so sensitive." "Well, this thing right here," says Devin, and he pushes on her clitoris. And she goes, "Ooh, ooh. Yeah, that's it. Just like that, baby." And he goes, "I find this strangely appealing. I just want to just do it again." "Push, push, push," he said. And she squirms delightfully. And he goes, "There's something happening to me. A feeling of wanting to fondle that I've never experienced before." "Fondle? What's that?" You've not heard the term yet. That's fine. We just got introduced to our regular time dictionaries. I don't blame you for not getting very far along. Well, you see, what we're going to do is make love." "Make love?" "Yes. Now open your mouth. Close your eyes. Like this? Yes, sweetie, like that. Exactly like that. Okay, now what? Now you just put this thing right here, right on your tongue. There you go, sweetie. That's a good girl. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, there. Good job. And then they had sexual intercourse. The end. Well, that's my bedtime story. He can't count. Hyacinth. Thinking here. Yeah, it was all about Devin and Hyacinth. It was a love story. The first time they had sexual intercourse after the beginning of time. Yeah, I tell you, there's one thing people uniformly seem to like a lot or be moved by in some sense: sexualness. Sexy, sensual, sexy sexualness that moves people to buy things or just sort of stare at things or ogle, I guess you'd say, or fondle, jostle, uh, fold, uh, situate, adjust, arrange, and also, of course, bejangle. Oh, I gotta go inside. Then I go to bed. Good night, my friends. I love you.